So I'm going to be upgrading my 2019 Seadoo GTR 230 with the stage 1. I'm going to have to remove the air box, and to do that, I'm going to have to take these clips off, move these hoses out of the way. I'm going to have to go into the engine compartment and relocate the voltage regulator. That's going to actually mount underneath of the latch mechanism, the spot for the seat. So I'm going to be drilling 2 holes in here and mounting this up underneath to clear that out. This whole box is going to have to come out of the way for the fresh air intake. Now, while I was doing this, I went ahead and did a overhaul on the supercharger. I did use Green Hulk for that. I talked to Jerry. This is a later model supercharger, and I was able to get a rebuild kit for this. So I'm closing in on 200 hours, so I want to get that done. So once completed, I'll put all my plumbing back in for the intercooler and such. Once you get the clamps off of the old airbox, you cannot pull that out unless you remove the fuel pump. To unplug the fuel pump, there's a small tab that needs to come out first. I used a very large pipe wrench to just break the nut loose. To remove the pressure side of the fuel pump, the hose, there's a small red clip that comes out first. To remove the elbow, there's a small button that you press, and that'll let you remove the fitting. If you've got gas in the tank, there's no way to get around this. Just prepare yourself with lots of rags. The fuel pump float assembly drags fuel out with it. This shows the difference between the old air inlet and the new, which is larger and much less restrictive. Now that we have the air box out, we need to remove the molding on the right-hand side of the jet ski. In this area, we're going to need to drill a new hole location that's going to mount the air filter bracket on the inside. They give you a template to use to drill the holes in the right location. I just put a piece of tape over top of that and traced those, and then stuck that where I needed it. Just make sure there's no wires behind this area where you're going to drill. Now these screw heads fit flush into the fiberglass, so I used a chamfering tool to make a V-notch at the top so that those screws go in a little bit. Now this is the air filter assembly. This is where the air hose attaches on one side and the filter to the other. So this is the whole purpose of us drilling holes into the side of the ski. I did use Loctite inside the holes before I mounted that. It's definitely a better idea to mount the air filter and the hoses before installing this, unlike how I did it. When I put the screws in, I actually added RTV to the sides of the screws, just because I didn't like the idea of the screws rubbing the sides. I installed the hose from the front to the back, and then I slid the corrugated hose air inlet underneath of the intake manifold. I already had my supercharger inlet piping off. This is the velocity stack. This helps guide the air into the eye of the impeller, and it adapts to the larger airline. As I mentioned, it would be easier to put the filter and the hose on before bolting this in. In my case, I had to put all the clamps on inside the front compartment. Here you can see the routing of the air intake. Just barely makes it through all the hoses and such. Another item to point out is that there's a special clamp for that corrugated piping. It's actually a spiral design. I reattached the plastic. One thing I didn't mention is that is held in the front by 2 screws. Also, once I got everything situated, I have been going back in with zip ties and cleaning everything up, securing the wiring harness and such.